What is up, ladies and gents? You know what time of day it is. It's XCN time, and in today's video we're going to be talking all about XCN. We're going to be discussing what we are seeing here on the charts, and I'll be giving you guys my price prediction for XCN over the coming days and weeks, as well as my targets for 2025. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that. Of course, if you are a new viewer, then welcome to this channel. If you do like this sort of content, hit the like button and subscribe for more. If you are a returning viewer, as always, welcome back to the channel. It's great to have you all here. So we're going to be diving straight into this video, and of course we're going to start off with the shorter term here on XCN. We are on the 1 hour chart right now. In fact, no, we're not. We're on the 4 hour chart. Let us just change that. This is the scenario that we are seeing right now. Of course, the picture here on XCN, to be honest with you guys, is not looking great on the shorter term. Of course, we have still been in this horrible downtrend here in the shorter term. Essentially, our resistance looks something a little bit like this, and XCN is compressing over this support, this major support that we have right now at the 1.65 cents region. And now, as you can see, the prices are right by this 1.65 cents level. Of course, over the past 48 hours here on Onyxcoin, we can see that in this region, we've had the prices come down to this level on at least 5 separate occasions. And each time we have seen a bounce to the upwards direction. But notably here over the last 2 bounces, the bounces have been getting weaker and weaker. We have been seeing lower highs forming from the bounces from the 1.65 cents level. So couple that with the fact that we've got this resistance going down here, then in the next few hours, I would not be surprised if we do see a breakdown from this support level. Of course, I want the best here for XCN, but at the end of the day, we have to be prepared for a scenario where we start to lose the 1.65 cents level. And of course, the target for me, if we lose this level, is the next fib down from these Fibonacci retracement levels. Of course, as we can see from these fib levels, this blue support line was exactly at this 0.618 fib here. So this was going to be a strong support for us here at Onyxcoin. If we lose this level, the next fib down, as you can see, sits at the 0.5 fib there at 1.42 cents. So essentially, what I see happening if we lose this fib here at 1.65 cents is quite a quick trip. This could take a few hours, for example, all the way down to this next fib down here. I could see something like that happening within the next 24 hours, unless we see a bounce once again from this 1.65 cents level. Of course, if this 0.5 fib does not hold, if the prices do fall further here on Onyxcoin, the next fib down for us could be this 0.382 fib there at roughly 1.22 cents. So that's the bearish picture that we see here. If we lose this 1.65 cents level, this is the trip I expect us to take over the next few days. But of course, if we have a good open to crypto today, that is one thing that could definitely save us here on Onyxcoin from going any lower. For example, if the stock market in the USA opens green in just a few hours time and we start to see crypto pump along with it, that could also bring XCN up here. And for me, I would start to turn really short-term bullish here on XCN if we can break past that previous high here. So if we do something like this in the shorter term, so over the next few hours, so if the prices get past 1.75 cents with a pump here as well, then that would make me very bullish here in the shorter term on Onyxcoin. Of course, this would start us on a new shorter term bullish trend here, and I expect the target for the prices in the short term, if we are able to break past that 1.75 cents, is to hit this upper resistance line here at roughly 2.2 cents. And again, I do think that could be very, very quick. Given the fact that twice over April we've seen 2 huge pumps up to this resistance level, I do think Onyxcoin still has it in it to have a pump up to this upper resistance level in the very shorter term if we can reclaim that 1.75 cents level. So honestly guys, be prepared for both scenarios at this point. Everything hangs in the balance right now with how the markets are going to be opening later today. And of course, one massive thing that you guys have to watch out for, particularly if you are shorter term holders here on XCN, is the upcoming Fed interest rate decision that's happening on Wednesday, May the 7th. So 2 days time, guys, at 7 p.m. my time. So I believe that's 1 p.m. Eastern time in the USA. We are going to hear what the Fed chooses for the interest rate. Now, of course, the previous interest rate is 4.5%, and the consensus and the forecast is exactly the same. So the markets are generally expecting the interest rates not to move. Now, the interesting thing is what happens if we get a different decision. If the Fed does decide to decrease the interest rate down to 4.25%, that would be extremely bullish here for XCN. Of course, we would see the markets pump if that did occur, and we know that Trump is trying to force the Fed to reduce those interest rates. So it'll be interesting to see the outcome from this interest rate decision. In any which case, guys, this is going to add a lot of volatility into the market. So if you are trading, then do be careful when this interest rate decision is released. Of course, we're going to also hear from the press conference the kind of tone that the chair of the Fed is going to be like. Of course, we're going to hear whether he's a bit more optimistic or pessimistic about the economy, and just generally the tone of his speech is going to dictate whether the markets are bullish or bearish from this conference. Of course, even if the interest rates stay the same and we hear things like we are seeing signs that we are able to lower the interest rates in the near future or something to that effect, that could be very bullish for the markets as well. However, if the chair is very concerned with the tariff news, if he's concerned that it's going to bring back inflation, and that's kind of the emphasis from this conference, that's going to be very bearish here for crypto. So we could see quite a bit of a swing here in the XCN price in the next 2 days, given that interest rate meeting. So that's definitely something to watch out for here on the shorter term. However, despite the shorter term outlook here on Onyxcoin, whether we are heading bullish or bearish in the near future, I still remain extremely bullish in the longer term. Even if the prices do dip on the shorter term, we have still seen this epic pattern, in my opinion, which resembles something like this. Of course, if the prices do decide to dip here on Onyxcoin, that could set us up for a very bullish chart pattern here on XCN. Let's say something like this does happen, where we get down to that 0.5 fib here. That would be a perfect setup for a massive bullish move here on XCN, because wherever Onyxcoin dips to here, we could be seeing some sort of bull flag pattern emerge. And of course, if we start to see a shorter term trend reversal and prices head back up to this resistance and we see a breakout to the upside, we could see a massive price target stem from this bull flag type pattern. Of course, we get the length of the parabolic move going into this consolidation pattern that we are seeing here on Onyxcoin. And wherever we see the breakout, let's say that happens in a few weeks time here on Onyxcoin, we could be looking at a price target of 4.5 cents, a 120% trade to the upside. So this is something that I am paying attention to, particularly if we do see that dip in the shorter term. Of course, if you are looking for a great place to trade any such breakout, then look no further than the MEX exchange. This is the exchange that I use for my trading because they have some of the lowest trading fees that don't require KYC to get started. And for a very limited time only, they're giving every new user who signs up in the link in the description down below a free $20 to get started. So if you want to make use of that offer, sign up in the link in the description down below. It takes less than a minute to do so. Deposit some fiat or crypto into your account, and then they'll give you that $20 straight away. Of course, you can use that, for example, to simply buy some XCN or long XCN on any such breakout. So of course, guys, thank you for supporting this channel. Let's get back into this video. So this is one of the potential longer term things that I am looking for. Of course, we can also draw that support going across like this, and we get a similar price target to the upside as well. Of course, the 1.65 cents level does have to hold if we are potentially looking at this structure here. But if it does hold and we start to see a bounce in the shorter term to the upside, let's say that does happen and we see a breakout, we could be looking at a price target there of roughly 3.5 cents or a 66% trade to the upside. So two potential patterns that we could be seeing from this consolidation that we have here in April and May. But that, my friends, is still not the most bullish thing about Onyxcoin here, because if we zoom out, we are seeing an even more bullish price pattern starting to evolve here on XCN. Of course, what we have here, if we just get rid of the shorter term annotations, is something that also looks like a massive bull flag. If we just extend that short term resistance, connecting the two highs there in April to this January peak, you can see that they kind of line up pretty well. So not only do we have a resistance for these two peaks, if we extend it, we've got a stronger resistance connecting this January high with these two April highs here. And furthermore, if we draw the support for this sort of consolidation that we had for 3 months, this downtrend that we've been seeing from February to April, we can see that we've got a support here that connects the high there from the start of January to the lows there in April. And we've got two roughly parallel lines. And so of course, if we see the prices start to rise here and break out from this upper resistance, not only are we going to see those shorter term patterns that I say could get us between 3.5 to 4.5 cents in the shorter term, we could also be looking at this much longer term bull flag here on XCN. And of course, the price target for this is a lot more ambitious as well. It's the length of the parabolic move. So this length here going into the bull flag in the first place. If we drag that to wherever we see a breakout, again, let's just say we see that breakout in the next few weeks, for example's sake here, we could be looking at a price target here on XCN of 13 cents. That's a 555% upside from wherever we see a breakout. And of course, if you look at that from the price now, that's 700% to the upside. So that's basically an 8x if we see this bull flag pattern play out. So of course, that's sort of a longer term play that I'm looking at here on Onyxcoin, and that is kind of why I'm not so fussed about the shorter term price actions here, because in the longer term, we know that we are seeing a plethora of bullish patterns here on XCN. Of course, the longer term trend is predominantly bullish as well. We can see that over the past 6 months, for example, XCN is up 15x. It's undeniable that the longer term trend is bullish. And so if you are a longer term holder here on XCN, I still think you should have a lot of confidence that XCN is going to be going higher. Of course, my final price targets for 2025 still remain along these fib levels. These fib levels are ones I've been monitoring since the very start, because essentially we can see that these fib levels are used as places of support and resistance for the XCN price. For example, 0.382 as the prices found their low in April, and 0.786 as they found their high in April there as well. And of course, given the fact that XCN loves these fibs, we can use them to predict how high the price of XCN can go. So if we see that bull flag target met at 13 cents and prices can keep on going, my next targets here for XCN, my main 2025 targets, lie along the 1.41 fib up here, which is at 17 cents, and the 1.618 fib here at 32 cents. Of course, 1.414 is also the previous all-time high here on XCN, that's 17 cents. So I do expect there to be a lot of resistance at that level. However, if prices can break through the previous all-time high, I do think it could be quite a swift trip to 32 to 33 cents at the 1.618 fib. So those are my longer term 2025 price targets here on XCN. I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. Of course, we need to see the right conditions here in crypto. Of course, Bitcoin needs to be making new all-time highs. We need to be seeing things like the crypto fear and greed index at extreme greed, so values of above 80. At the moment, we are at 49, which is neutral, which is not bad. But we still got a bit of a way to go before we see extreme greed. Altcoin season index, we need to see this value above 75, which indicates that altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin. At the moment, we have seen a little bit of an uptick. We're at 26 at the moment, which is still predominantly Bitcoin season. Before, just a few days ago, we were seeing a value of 12 here. But now we have seen a little bit of an uptick in this altcoin season. But for us to get a true altcoin season and to give XCN the best chance of reaching those upper price targets, we need to see this value above 75. So we still got a bit of a ways to go before we see that. So those are my thoughts here on XCN, both in the shorter term and the longer term. In a summary, in the shorter term, I am leaning slightly more bearish. One of the major things actually that I should show you for that as well is the MACD. Of course, clearly seeing bearish momentum here. We have been for the past week. And so essentially my thesis on the shorter term is a little bit bearish. However, on the longer term, as always, I remain extremely bullish. We are still in a very well-defined uptrend, and we are seeing a bunch of bullish chart patterns here on XCN that could give us much higher prices in 2025. So that's kind of my summary for you guys. Hopefully it was helpful. Do let me know down in the comments if you are holding XCN. Of course, if you are holding and you're not yet staking your XCN, be sure to check out this video on how to stake your XCN if you're looking to do it. Of course, I do encourage it because it's basically like earning free passive income. They're giving you an APY of roughly 31%, meaning that if you stake $1,000 worth of XCN, by the end of the year, you'll receive $310 completely passively just for staking your XCN. So definitely check out this video that should be popping up on your screen right now. Of course, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.